Ryan Cole was young, rich, and powerful, and the world knew his name well. He built his company fast and climbed higher than anyone expected. People around him spoke carefully because his mood could change in seconds. Ryan believed emotions were weakness and control was strength. He lived by numbers, deadlines, and results alone. His office sat at the top of a tall glass building that looked over the city. At night, the lights below felt small like stars under his feet. Ryan liked that feeling because it reminded him of his power. He worked late almost every night because silence helped him think. The office smelled of paper, metal, and cold air. That night Ryan stared at a thick pile of papers on his desk. The reports showed problems, losses, and warnings from advisors. They asked him to slow down and change direction. Ryan hated reading doubt on paper. He felt anger rise inside his chest. His hand swept across the desk and sent the papers flying to the floor. The sound echoed through the empty office. Papers slid under chairs and across the glass floor. Ryan stood still, breathing hard. He felt relief after the outburst. Anger always made him feel lighter. He turned away and walked toward the window. Then a voice spoke from inside the room. It said his name clearly and calmly. Ryan froze as if time stopped around him. His heart beat fast and loud in his ears. He turned slowly and scanned the office. No one stood there. The door was locked and the hallway was empty. The city lights outside flickered softly. Ryan laughed once and told himself he imagined it. Stress had been heavy lately and his mind needed rest. He bent down to pick up the papers. As his fingers touched the floor, the voice spoke again. It sounded closer this time and stronger. It spoke without anger but with weight. Ryan felt cold move through his body. He stood up fast and backed away from the desk. His eyes searched the walls and ceiling. He checked his phone and security screen. Everything showed normal and empty. The building was silent. Ryan spoke out loud and asked who was there. His voice did not sound strong like he expected. The room gave no answer at first. Then the voice returned and spoke words only Ryan should know. It mentioned his childhood home and a promise he once broke. Fear tightened his chest. Ryan felt something he had not felt in years. He felt small and unsure. He demanded the voice to show itself. The voice did not appear and did not need to. The voice said it lived where he buried things. Ryan felt his hands shake. He tried to reason with himself and blamed stress again. Still his eyes stayed wide and alert. He grabbed his coat and rushed out of the office. At home Ryan locked the door and turned on all the lights. His apartment felt too quiet and too large. He sat on the couch and stared at the wall. The voice did not speak again that night, but sleep did not come easily. Morning arrived with heavy clouds and gray light. Ryan returned to the office early, hoping the night was just a bad moment. He avoided his staff and closed the door behind him. The room looked normal and calm. Ryan tried to work, but his focus broke easily. His eyes drifted toward the corner cabinet that had not been opened in years. The voice had not spoken yet, but he felt watched. He shook his head and opened his computer instead. Minutes later the voice returned. It asked him why he avoided that cabinet. Ryan stood up slowly and stared at it. His legs felt heavy as he walked closer. His hand hovered over the handle before pulling it open. Inside were old files and folders covered in dust. Ryan did not remember placing them there. He opened the first folder and felt his breath stop. The papers showed names, dates, and decisions he once made quickly. Each page told a story of someone losing something because of him. Businesses failed and families struggled after his choices. Ryan closed the folder and stepped back. The voice spoke gently and asked him if he remembered them. Ryan shouted that it was not his fault. He blamed the market timing and mistakes of others. The voice did not argue. It simply waited. Silence filled the office and pressed against his thoughts. Ryan sank into his chair, feeling tired and weak. His success suddenly felt heavy instead of proud. The voice spoke again and said fear grows when truth is ignored. Ryan covered his face with his hands and stayed still. The city outside continued moving like nothing had changed. Inside the office, a battle had begun. Ryan did not know yet that this night would mark the start of everything breaking and rebuilding inside him. Ryan Cole left the office late that night with his mind heavy and restless. The city air felt colder than usual against his skin. He walked faster than normal, as if something followed him. His car ride home passed in silence and thought. At home, Ryan poured a glass of water and sat alone at the table. The room felt different, as if it no longer belonged to him. He remembered the files in the cabinet and the names written inside them. Each name felt like a quiet accusation. Ryan tried to sleep, but his eyes refused to close. His thoughts moved in circles and returned to the same question. He wondered why the voice chose now to speak. He wondered if it would ever stop. Morning came without rest. Ryan returned to the office before anyone else arrived. He stood in the doorway and looked around carefully. The room looked the same but felt alive in a strange way. He walked to the cabinet again and opened it slowly. The files were still there waiting silently. Ryan pulled out another folder and opened it. Inside were letters he never sent and agreements he never honored. The voice returned and spoke calmly. It said these were not mistakes but choices. Ryan clenched his jaw and argued that success demanded sacrifice. The voice asked who paid the price for those sacrifices. Ryan closed the folder and sat at his desk. His hands shook as he rested them on the surface. He felt pressure in his chest like something pushing outward. He had never felt so exposed. Throughout the day, Ryan ignored meetings and calls. His staff noticed his silence and kept their distance. The voice spoke at intervals, not loud but firm. It reminded him of moments he dismissed people without listening. Ryan remembered a man named Leo who once trusted him completely. Leo believed in a shared future and fair work. Ryan remembered pushing him aside when profits looked higher elsewhere. The memory burned inside Ryan like a slow fire. He tried to silence it by opening new reports and plans. The voice did not stop and did not rush. It waited patiently as truth settled in. By evening, Ryan stood at the window again, watching the city below. He noticed people moving like tiny shapes with full lives of their own. For the first time, he wondered how many of them were affected by his choices. The voice asked Ryan if he felt proud now. Ryan did not answer right away. He felt tired beyond physical exhaustion. He admitted quietly that he felt empty. That night, Ryan stayed in the office instead of going home. He reviewed old projects and decisions one by one. Each review felt like reopening a wound. The voice stayed quiet, as if giving him space. Hours passed and the building lights shut down floor by floor. Ryan remained alone with his thoughts and memories. He felt anger at himself rise and fall. He felt regret settle deeper with each file. Near dawn, Ryan finally spoke honestly. He said he was afraid of losing everything. He said power was the only thing that made him feel safe. The voice returned and said fear was already controlling him. Ryan leaned back in his chair and stared at the ceiling. He realized how long he had been running from himself. He realized success had become a shield instead of a goal. The thought frightened him more than the voice ever did. The next morning, Ryan made a decision. He called his assistant and canceled all meetings. He asked for time alone without explanation. People were surprised but did not question him. Ryan began reaching out to old contacts from years ago. Some ignored him while others responded cautiously. Each conversation felt heavy but necessary. The voice remained silent but present. Ryan wrote letters he should have written long ago. He admitted fault without excuses. Writing those words felt painful but honest. His hand no longer shook as much. As days passed, the voice spoke less often. Ryan noticed the fear inside him changing shape. It no longer screamed, but questioned. It pushed him toward responsibility instead of escape. One evening Ryan returned to the cabinet and removed every file. He placed them on his desk carefully instead of hiding them away. He looked at them not as threats but as reminders. The voice spoke once more, and told him this was only the beginning. Ryan nodded, as if speaking to someone standing in front of him. He understood now that silence was not peace. Facing truth was. Ryan stood up, and felt a strange calm settle inside him. The office no longer felt like a battlefield. It felt like a place of decision. He knew part 3 of his journey would be harder than anything before. Ryan Cole woke before sunrise with a heavy but clear mind. The office no longer frightened him the way it once did. The voice had grown quiet, but its presence still guided his thoughts. Ryan understood now that silence did not mean escape. He arrived at the office early and opened the curtains to let light fill the room. The city below looked calm and steady. Ryan breathed deeply and felt something close to balance. He knew the hardest part was not hearing the voice but answering it. Ryan sat at his desk and reviewed the files again one by one. He did not rush or look away this time. Each decision told a story of ambition without care. Each signature carried weight he once ignored. He remembered how easily he dismissed people when numbers looked good. He remembered meetings where he smiled while planning exits. The voice did not interrupt and did not judge. It allowed memory to do the work. Ryan decided to act instead of reflect alone. He contacted legal teams and asked for honest reviews. He ordered full audits of past actions and current practices. His staff was shocked but followed his lead. As days passed, Ryan met people he once avoided. Some meetings were cold and tense. Others carried pain that could not be fixed quickly. Ryan listened without defending himself. One meeting stood out above the rest. Leo sat across from him, older and quieter than Ryan remembered. His eyes held disappointment but also calm. Ryan apologized without adding reasons. Leo listened and nodded slowly. He said time had changed both of them. He said apology mattered, but action mattered more. Ryan accepted those words fully. After the meeting, Ryan felt lighter but not proud. He understood forgiveness was not guaranteed. He understood effort had to continue without reward. The voice remained quiet, as if approving the direction. At night Ryan stayed alone and thought deeply. He realized how much fear had shaped his rise. Fear of being powerless drove every sharp move. Power had become armor instead of purpose. Ryan began changing how he led his company. He encouraged open talks and honest disagreement. He slowed decisions instead of forcing them. People noticed the shift and felt unsure but hopeful. The voice returned one evening softly and asked a single question. It asked who Ryan wanted to be remembered as. Ryan did not answer right away. He needed time to understand that question fully. Days later Ryan stood again at the window watching the city. He no longer felt above it. He felt part of it. That feeling surprised him more than fear ever did. Ryan remembered being young with simple goals. He once wanted stability, not power. Somewhere along the way that wish became twisted. The voice had brought him back to that truth. Ryan began visiting places he once ignored. He met workers and partners face to face. He listened more than he spoke. Trust did not return quickly, but effort did not stop. One evening Ryan opened the cabinet again. It stood empty now except for dust. He felt relief but also responsibility. He knew empty space could be filled again if he forgot his lesson. The voice spoke again and told him awareness was fragile. It said comfort could become danger if unchecked. Ryan nodded quietly and accepted that truth. Growth did not end with one decision. Ryan wrote personal notes to himself each night. He wrote about fear, honesty, and restraint. Writing grounded him and cleared his thoughts. The voice faded further as his actions grew stronger. Weeks passed and changes became visible. Profits stabilized instead of racing upward. Relationships improved slowly and steadily. Ryan felt tired but satisfied. One afternoon Ryan faced a difficult choice involving profit and people. The old Ryan would have chosen quickly. This time he paused and considered long-term impact. The voice did not need to speak. Ryan made the harder choice that protected others first. It cost money and attention. It gained respect quietly. Ryan felt something deeper than success. That night Ryan slept peacefully without interruption. The voice did not appear. The silence felt earned instead of forced. Ryan smiled faintly in the dark. The next morning Ryan realized something important. The voice was never separate from him. It was the part he buried under ambition. Understanding that changed everything. Ryan prepared himself for the final test ahead. He knew one true challenge remained. Facing the world with his new self would define his future. Part 4 would decide who he truly became. Ryan Cole stood alone in his office as morning light filled the room. The city below moved steadily like a living map. He felt calm but alert, as if standing at the edge of a final decision. The silence no longer felt empty or threatening. The voice did not return that morning. Ryan noticed its absence clearly. Instead of fear, he felt responsibility settle in his chest. He understood that the voice had done its work. Ryan reviewed the latest company plans with care. The numbers looked modest compared to earlier years. He accepted that without anger or regret. Growth now meant balance instead of domination. A meeting was scheduled with senior leaders later that day. Ryan entered the room without tension. Faces looked curious and unsure as they waited for him to speak. He felt no urge to command or intimidate. Ryan spoke calmly and clearly. He explained the new direction and values of the company. He admitted past mistakes without blaming others. The room stayed quiet as people listened closely. Some leaders questioned his choices openly. Ryan welcomed their honesty and answered with patience. He did not rush or shut anyone down. Trust began forming slowly through that exchange. Later that day Ryan met with teams across the building. He walked through workspaces and spoke directly with people. He asked questions and listened to answers fully. People noticed the difference immediately. Ryan felt tired but fulfilled by the end of the day. His energy was spent on connection instead of control. The building felt warmer and more alive. He knew change was real when effort felt natural. That evening Ryan returned to the empty office. He stood near the desk where papers once flew in anger. He placed a fresh folder at the center carefully. It held plans built on respect and clarity. Ryan reflected on how fear once ruled him. Fear of loss pushed him to extremes. Facing that fear had been the hardest step. Accepting it brought peace instead of weakness. Ryan thought about Leo and others he had wronged. Some relationships healed while others remained distant. He accepted both outcomes honestly. Not every story could be rewritten. The voice appeared once more softly inside his thoughts. It did not accuse or command. It simply asked if he was ready to continue alone. Ryan answered with quiet confidence. The voice faded gently without drama or force. Ryan felt no fear as it left. He understood it would return only if needed. Awareness had become part of him. Weeks passed and the company stabilized steadily. Employees spoke openly and worked with trust. Progress moved slower but stronger. Ryan measured success differently now. Ryan spent more time away from the tower. He walked through the city streets like anyone else. He noticed faces and stories around him. The world felt wider than his office walls. One afternoon Ryan received a message from Leo. It was short but honest. Leo said respect was earned through time and consistency. Ryan appreciated those words deeply. Ryan replied without expectation. He thanked Leo and wished him well. He felt no need for approval. Doing the right thing had become its own reward. On a quiet night Ryan stood again by the window. The city lights reflected in the glass softly. He no longer saw power beneath him. He saw people living full lives. Ryan smiled slightly and turned away from the window. He shut off the office lights and locked the door behind him. He felt ready to move forward without fear. Ryan Cole did not become perfect or free from mistakes. He became aware and responsible. That awareness changed everything. True wealth had finally found him.